Hello, geometry folks. This is Mr. Heron back at you with 3.5. And I really hope that 3.4 made some sense to you because you're gonna turn around and use a lot of those things here. And we're gonna start proving triangles congruent. Now, many students just think proving means just, oh, well, look at it. It's obvious that two triangles are congruent. Obviously, it's proven. No, you need to write down the proper steps and the proper reasoning and come to a logical conclusion of that the two triangles are congruent. So that's kind of what you're looking for. So let's start here. Why are triangles congruent? So if I look right here, we have S, T, U, that triangle. So how does that match up to WVX? So S matches up to W, T matches up to, S doesn't match up to W, S matches up to V, my apologies. T matches up to X, and U then matches up to W. So the reason for that is side, side, side. Okay, so the side triangle congruence theorem is why that works. So here, ignore these numbers. All right, so ignore those numbers. So here, C matches up to F, D matches up to G, and E matches up to H. Okay, and that reasoning is going to be side, angle, side. Okay, side, angle, side. That's your reasoning for that one. So this next one, STV, that's STV, this triangle. STV, S is going to match up to U. T would be this angle T. T does not match up to T. T actually matches up to V in this case because you're talking about this part of T, which matches up to that part of V. And then the last part, V, is referring to STV is referring to this part of V, which is going to refer to that part of T. And that's going to be angle, side, angle. Okay, and this last part, this last one, again, ignore the numbers. I'm going to notice right away that those two are vertical. WXY is congruent. W matches up to A, X matches up to Z, and in this case, Y matches up to Y. So that's going to be angle, angle, side. Okay, so now, the reason that this works is because it's angle, angle, next side, angle, angle, next side. That's going to be your answer. Okay, so we're going to look at this. Now we're going to look at this in the kind of the way a proof. Kind of the way of the proof. So this would be a proof. Okay, it's called a two-column proof. Notice that you have column 1 and you have column 2. All right, so here are your statements and here are your reasons. So now a proof works by taking a given set of information, okay, and I'm going to say that first, okay? N is the midpoint of LW, N is the midpoint of SK, and that statement is given. You're given some information about two triangles, and you're asked to prove some statement about the triangles being congruent. So in this case, they're saying LNS, so this triangle is congruent to WNK, this triangle. Okay, notice how they correspond. Okay, all the points, L matches up to W, L matches up to W, N matches up to N, and S matches up to K. So now let's look at what they say. They say N is the midpoint of LW, and N is the midpoint of SK. So what does it mean to be a midpoint? A midpoint merely means that it is exactly in the middle. Okay, so N is the midpoint of LW, so it's exactly in the middle. And N is also the midpoint of SK, so it's right in the middle there. So now, from that statement, I can say, you know what? That means LN is congruent to NW, and also SN is congruent to NK by definition of midpoint. Okay, by what midpoint literally means, that is why that is true. This could be broken up in two statements with the same reason being used twice. That's perfectly fine. But that's all you're doing. You're just saying logically, if it's a midpoint, what does that actually mean? And then you go from there. The next statement is that, these two are vertical angles based on where they are. So vertical angles are always congruent forever. Okay, they're always congruent. So now I've reached a point where I've said enough information to say, yeah, these two triangles are congruent by side angle side. Okay, and that's what a proof looks like. Okay, you have columns, you have your statements and your reasons. Okay, so let's look at some and see if we can kind of look through this one. So now take a look. These marks mean that they're parallel, SP and OU, which is what is said right here. They also tell you that S is congruent to U. Okay, and this is not a bad habit to kind of mark up here what they have. So your first statement is given. And then your second statement is SPO, so this angle here, is congruent to UOP, this angle here. Okay, why are those two congruent? Well, you said up above that these two are parallel. So these two are congruent because of alternate interior angles. Okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying those two are equal by alternate interior angles. Right there, right there. And last but not least, OP is congruent to OP. This is called the reflexive property. Anytime you have part of a triangle, or you have a side, an angle, whatever, that is part of both triangles, you want to use the reflexive property. Okay, so if you notice, OP is congruent to OP. Okay, that is because that segment, OP, is part of both triangles. That's why I can use reflexive. Okay, notice it's reflexive, not reflective. Okay, reflexive is, the way I kind of remember it is, if you're looking in a mirror, you're looking at yourself, so you're exactly identical to yourself, that's reflexive. So then your final statement, that's enough information to tell me those triangles are congruent by angle, angle, side. Okay, so now let's take a look here. These are some shorter proofs. So once again, you start with what you're given. So you're going to start PQ congruent to RS, and PQ and RS, that's already marked. All right, so now the second one, angle PQS congruent to angle RSQ. That's also given, and that's also marked. So now QS is congruent to QS. We said that that is the reflexive property. So now that's enough to tell me those two are congruent, okay, by side, angle, side. If you notice, I have the side, I have the included angle, and I have the second side. And that matches over here. On this one on the right, I'm going AB congruent to DE, that's given. Second statement, AC congruent to DF, that's also given. BC congruent to EF, that's also given. And then if you notice, you have all sides, no angles. You have all sides, no angles. That tells me that that's enough to say by side, side, side that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. And again, just like corresponding, A matches up to D, B matches up to E, C matches up to F. Okay, those are pretty simple. Let's try a couple different ones here. So let's take a look. You're given AE bisects BD and AB is parallel to BD. So let's look at, so the first one's given. This is where I want to start with my given statements. parallel to DE, given. So AE bisects BD. So bisects BD. What does it mean to bisect? Bisect literally means cut in half. So if AE, this segment right here, A to E, bisects BD, that means it cuts this in half. Okay, that means by definition of bisect, that statement's going to be true. Now, if you say ACB, that's this one, and DCB, I think that's supposed to be DCE, that one, those are congruent because they're vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. Those are always going to be congruent. Vertical angles are going to be congruent. So now, I have alternate interior is my clue for my reason. So you notice how my second statement says that these two are parallel. Well, if they're parallel, then I can say angle B is congruent to angle D by alternate interior. So this is way back to Unit 2, where I've got two parallel lines, and they get cut by a transversal, where this equals this. So now I can say in my final statement, triangle ABC congruent to triangle DCE by angle side angle. And that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. So now if we look over here on the right, so now I kind of took away everything, took away all the structures. This is going to be kind of a little bit trickier because we got to start from the beginning. So if we start from the beginning, we're here. So first one, PR, congruent to TR, given. Angle P, congruent to angle T, given. So now this is already marked for us. So P is congruent to T, and that PR is congruent to TR. So now I'm looking at those two, and those are staring me right at the face. Those are vertical. So angle PRQ, and that's going to be equal to angle TRS. Still important to be mindful of corresponding parts. So that's going to be vertical angles. So now I've said enough to say, hey, those triangles are congruent by angle side angle. So notice my final statement's always what I'm trying to prove, and that's my final reason. Okay, one of those postulates, one of those theorems, one of those angle, side angle, side angle, side, any of those. Okay, I'll have a lot of students that will do pretty well, and then all of a sudden they'll get to this statement, and their reason will just be proven. That's not a reason. That should never be put in a proof. You should never say proven. That doesn't do anything. You need to make a logical argument as to why. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. A little bit trickier. So now, first statement, C is the midpoint of AE, and that is given. BA congruent to DE, that's given. And 3, angle A is congruent to angle E, and that's given. Okay, so BA is marked, DE is marked, A and E are marked, C is a midpoint. So because C is a midpoint, I'm going to then say, you know what? I'm going to say then AC is congruent to EC. Why am I going to say that? Because definition of midpoint I just shortened up the word definition. That's DEFN. Definition of midpoint. Midpoint tells me that it is exactly in the middle, meaning these two things are equal to each other. And my last statement is going to be what I'm trying to prove. And that final piece is going to be side, angle, side. Okay. This takes a little bit of time and it takes a little bit of thinking, okay? Be patient with yourself and kind of start looking around at what things I can kind of pick up, okay? So then you're working through. It's going to take a little bit of time, take a little bit of practice, ask questions, and I look forward to answering them. Thank you.